Hola, amigos. Today we're going to be discovering why fitness social media is ruining your gains, even if you don't realize it. And you may be thinking, that's pretty ironic coming from a fitness channel on a social media platform, and you'd be correct. But we'll forget about that for now, and we'll jump straight in. So for the sake of structuring this video nice and easily, I'm going to split it into 3 parts. Part 1, we're going to be discussing how social media actually works, for those of you who don't know, because it's going to be important later. Part 2, we're going to be looking at the current landscape of fitness social media, and then part 3 we're going to be looking at what you can do to basically not get mixed in with the crowd, and you can overcome it and you can start using it to your advantage. So part 1, how does social media actually work? For a lot of you, you may not fully understand how it works in the back end, and it becomes important for when we discuss part 2 in a minute. So I'm sure even if you don't know how it works, you've heard of the algorithm, and the algorithm is basically you. It's you, it's me, it's we as a collective. We are the algorithm. The algorithm only has one purpose, and that is to show you the kind of content that you are going to engage with, that you're going to watch, that you are going to potentially comment on or like or whatever. And the reason it works like this is because social media companies have one main goal when it comes to their platforms, and that is to keep you on it for as long as humanly possible. Attention is the currency. Your attention. And the reason this is the case is because these companies get paid through advertisements. So advertisers pay them to put their ads on their platforms, and then they show it to people who are most likely to purchase from these ads. So if they can keep you on the platform for as long as possible, then they can show you more ads, and then they get paid more by the advertisers. So now that we understand that, it's easy to understand why the algorithm works as it does. Because if a video gets posted and then how many hundreds of thousands or millions of people watch that video, people like you, then the algorithm essentially shows you that because it knows that people like you have engaged with this video, and therefore you are likely to engage with it as well, and it can keep you on the platform for longer and then show you more ads and get paid more by advertisers. So that is how social media works. So now that we know that, let's move into part 2, the current state of the fitness landscape. Now, I always think of this as fitness politics. We basically have, on one end of the spectrum, the right wing, which I always think is more like the science-based lifters. Then on the other end of the spectrum, we have the left wing, which are the old school gym bros. Now you'll find that people, like in real world politics, at either end of these spectrums, the extremists, they have very different views when it comes to what works in fitness, how you can build muscle, how you can get stronger, how you can drop body fat, how you should eat in terms of your nutrition. And the reason that this is the case is because fitness isn't like a one path suits all kind of thing. There are loads and loads of different routes that will get you to the same goal. It's multifactorial. It will be a matter of your preferences. It will be a matter of how much time you have to allocate to the gym or training or whatever. There are loads of ways to achieve the same goal. Now, the reason we went through that whole bit in part 1 about how social media works is because it's very important in understanding why you see certain fitness content and why it may seem really confusing and really polarizing. And it's because it is, by design. You see, when you get extremists, you get better hooks, and a hook, by the way, in terms of social media, is just going to be the thing that you say or the text that you see on the screen in the first sort of 3 to 5 seconds of the video, which is designed to get the viewer to keep watching. It's designed to spark interest and curiosity. And when you get the extremists on each end of this political fitness spectrum, they make the best hooks because they're almost the most outlandish statements, because they're extreme. Because if I was to sit here and I said something like, when it comes to building muscle, okay, so for muscle growth, I started a video saying, volume and intensity are both important. They're both variables that you manipulate in terms of how much time you have available, in terms of your training preferences, in terms of your training age, and that will eventually get you to your goal. You'd think that was really boring. You would have scrolled before I even got to the end of the sentence. Whereas if somebody came on and they said, do you know that you only need 1 set to all-out failure in order to build muscle? That is more interesting, that's more captivating. That's kind of almost shifted your belief because you weren't thinking that originally. It's extreme, and it's not really that true either. Because fitness is very, very contextual, but nuanced and contextualized information doesn't do particularly well in terms of social media. So what are the knock-on effects of this? Well, now it's kind of shifted your belief. You've seen something, it's quite outrageous, and you think, oh, okay, that's the way. Then what you end up doing is engaging with more of this content, and now you end up in a bit of an echo chamber where you're constantly fed this same this same kind of storyline. So then your training changes. You start doing things that you think you should be doing because now your beliefs have shifted. Only until this inevitably happens again and the next cycle comes in. And now you hear something from the science bros about a study that was published, and it's come out and it's telling you now that high volume is the way and you should be doing 30 sets in order to optimize muscle growth. And you go, oh wow, a study. Okay, fantastic. That's what I'm going to do. And you jump ship again. And now you wonder why you're so confused, because now you're in the next echo chamber. And now all you're hearing is this. And you think that you're with the times. You think that it's just how fitness is evolving. But actually you're just ping-ponging from one end of the fitness spectrum to the other, from left to right, hearing the same thing over and over again, because that's the kind of content you're engaging with at the time. And it's just about centralizing yourself a little bit and knowing that actually both of these things have mistruths within them. They both have big misconceptions. Everything you should hear should be taken with a pinch of salt, because some of the things they say are true. There are studies that show with increasing volume in terms of sets per muscle group per week, you do start to see increasing gains. However, those studies didn't take into consideration the amount of fatigue that you'd accumulate doing this over your full body. For example, if you were to just train quads and you did say 30 sets a week for your quads and trained no other muscle group on your body, then yeah, you're probably going to see more growth in your quads. Because when we think of a certain level of adaptation energy over the course of the day, you're essentially taking what you would have spread across your full body and just ultra honing in on that one singular muscle group. But that fails to take into consideration, if we were to apply this to the real world and have 30 sets for every muscle group, what kind of fatigue impact that would have on your body and your nervous system, not to mention your joints and connective tissues. So again, a study that had some good information but was completely taken out of context, and then had a whole group of people thinking that ultra high volume across your full body was the way to go. So let's finish with part 3. What can you do in order to avoid this? It's actually pretty simple. The first one I've kind of given to you is to have this realization that what you're hearing is kind of the extremes of each end of the spectrum. You're not hearing the sole truths. You're hearing the truths turned up to 100 and all of the cons turned right back down to 1 or 2. So everything you see, take with a pinch of salt. Number 2 is to stop jumping ship in terms of your training methodology, in terms of your training plan, what you're doing. Try and stay consistent to what you're doing for a decent length of time. At least, let's say, 10 to 16 weeks, something like that. Try not to be jumping ship all the time and feeling like you have to change plans every time you hear of some new piece of research or evidence or something you've seen online. Number 3 is to do your own research when you hear something. If you hear something based on whether it's volume or intensity, they just tend to be the 2 biggest ones at the moment, but it may be something to do with nutrition, or so it's some kind of definitive statement. Take it with a pinch of salt and then go and do your own research and find out what you think based on it, because a lot of this will be down to your own interpretation of that piece of research or that study as to how you can apply it to yourself. And then number 3 is the easiest one in theory, probably the hardest in practice, but just keep going. Whatever you keep hearing, don't let it sway you from the path, because at the end of the day, if you were to choose the least optimal workout plan, if you had the least optimal routine, if you are consistent, you will still see progress. So that's the main thing. Just stay on the path. If you keep doing the bare minimum, that accumulates and you will see progress in the end. So guys, that is it for the end of this video. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, please feel free. Drop me a like. Would be useful. And if you are new here and you like this kind of content and you're feeling very generous, then a subscribe would also be very much appreciated. It helps me grow this channel, this very new channel. And if you've got any fitness, training or nutrition topics that you'd like me to cover, then please feel free, leave me a comment below and I will definitely consider it. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.